Welcome back to Cool Seminary Tutorials. Hi, I'm Professor Wendy. Previously, we looked briefly at the question, who is Jesus? Today, because this is part of a History of Christianity course, I'm excited to respond to the question, what does Jesus have to do with history? Whether or not you're an official member of my History of Christianity course, you're always welcome to watch course videos. Please take a moment to leave feedback, ask questions, and click to subscribe. So, what does Jesus have to do with history? Let's look at two main ways Jesus is greatly involved in history. First, by impacting the lives of people who are the stuff of history. It's amazing the difference it makes when a person learns through the good news that Jesus brings that God loves all the people of the world, including you and me. And that God is working all the time to build a relationship with each of us, regardless of what we have done and what we haven't done. Because God is holy, our sin and guilt stand in the way of this relationship, however. But God approaches us with a solution already figured out for this problem. The solution for the problem of our sin is that God stands ready to go all the way to forgive human sin and guilt by letting Jesus, who is God, take the punishment for our sins on the cross. Through this sacrifice on the cross for human sin, countless lives have been changed as people, in gratitude for the chance to start over, go on with great joy to worship and serve God with their lives, sharing and showing the good news of God's love to others. History is full of these stories. For example, in the Bible, we read about the Apostle Paul, who overnight changed from a terrifying persecutor of Christians to one of the greatest Jesus followers and evangelists the world has ever seen. Because of the impact of Jesus on Paul's life, Paul helped to spread the Christian faith throughout the ancient world. Virtually every Christian will tell you that Jesus has changed his or her life in wonderful ways, including but not limited to forgiveness of their sins. These Christians will tell you if they've done anything good in their lives, it's because of their relationship with God, who understands and helps them. It's this relationship with God that has the capacity to help each one of us to become more loving and wise than we ever could have been on our own. Let me hasten to add, this does not mean every so-called Christian chooses a loving and wise path that would please you, me, or God. More about this in another video. The second thing that Jesus has to do with history is an outcome of the first. Jesus is very much involved in history because his teachings have created a movement of his followers that has impacted the entire world. That is, not only has faith in Jesus changed individual lives, he has also inspired people to reflect the love of God to others by doing great things, like preaching the gospel of the good news of God's amazing grace and goodwill toward all, by providing food and clean water to those who can't help themselves, and by building hospitals, schools, clinics, and community centers. We think right away of people like Mother Teresa, and before her, St. Francis of Assisi. Another example is Francis and Mary Gomer from Dayton, Ohio, who traveled to the nation of Sierra Leone in the 1800s and started a mission that built churches, schools, and hospitals, many of which still exist today. In the U.S., how many Methodist, Presbyterian, and Catholic hospitals do you know about? How many Catholic schools are in your community? The United Methodist Church alone has more than 100 schools in the U.S. that were started because of faith in Jesus. Major schools like Duke, Emory, Southern Methodist, and Boston universities. Graduates of these schools, like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., have made history in part as a result of their faith in Jesus, but also as a result of the great education they have received thanks to Jesus followers who are inspired to build schools. In future videos about the history of Christianity, we'll see loads of places where Jesus has impacted not only individual lives, but also the life of the whole world. It's important for us to remember that Jesus has the capacity to change our lives for the better as well, and to impact the world for the better through us. I'm Professor Wendy. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave feedback, ask questions, and click to subscribe to Cool Seminary Tutorials. Most of all, have fun learning.